Welcome to Let's Blame the Planets, a monthly astrology podcast where we use what's happening in the sky as a starting point for conversation, reflection, and storytelling. This isn't about predictions or having all the answers. It's about exploring astrology as it shows up in real life and helping you understand astrology for what it really is. My name is Sandra and I'm a natal astrologer, and together with my co-host Fery Qiu, our honorary astrologer, we'll dive deep each month into a topic that feels relevant for the world, or sometimes just for us. We both have a strong Sagittarius streak, so expect curiosity, big questions, and the occasional philosophical detour.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Let's Blame the Planets. Today we're diving into Virgo season. And there's quite a bit to get into. We're going to do a bit of a Leo season recap, share some personal stories, and really break down what's ahead. We'll be looking at the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces landing this week on August 28th, and we'll cover the new moon in Virgo on September 11th as well. And we're going to look at Uranus station in retrograde and Chiron slipping back into Aries as well at the end of the season. So here's what's a little different about this episode. We want this to be less about just telling you what's happening in the sky, although we will be doing that, and more about helping you to actually look at your own chart and start seeing these patterns for yourself. So let's start where we've just come from. Leo season opened with a solar eclipse on August 12th, and even though it was a new moon, it was a south node eclipse. We're going to be talking about that a little bit more. There was kind of a sense of needing to let go of something before we could properly step into this new Leo Aquarius cycle. And that's one that's going to be with us for the next 2 years. Okay, so Virgo season's just started today actually, and we're still halfway through this transition. We're still in eclipse season, and we're coming right up to this Pisces lunar eclipse later this week. So this is not feeling clean and settled, which Virgo really likes. So we're going to talk about eclipses, we're going to talk about Virgo, and we're going to talk about what this actually means for you personally. So like I said, Virgo is a sign, it's a mutable earth sign, and it likes things to be precise. It likes things to be in neat little boxes, okay? It can get a little bit of a bad rap, I think. It can be seen as overly critical or perfectionistic or a little bit nitpicky. But at its core, Virgo is there to serve. It cares. It wants to get the details right because it cares. And it wants to make sure that everyone is cared for. So, because it's a mutable earth sign, it's a little bit different to like Taurus, which can get a little stuck. Virgo likes to think its way out of everything. It's a very cerebral sign, despite it being earth. And unlike its Gemini kind of sister sign, which is also ruled by Mercury, Virgo is ruled by Mercury, it can manifest things. It's got that earth tendency to be able to manifest, whereas Gemini can be a little bit more scattered and maybe not create things into form, whereas Virgo is very good at creating through the thoughts, okay? Virgo is also really important in our health, not just, and it really shows us this link between the mind and the body. Yeah. Because it does both. It's the mind and it's the body. It's the nervous system. Virgo is also all about those little daily routines that we do to look after our body. It's about routine. It's about brushing your teeth every day. It's about meditating every day. So it's all those little things that add up to create a healthy being.
All right. Yeah. So I definitely agree with all the things Sandra was saying like about Virgo. And Virgo, I think it definitely have really like bad reputation in a way, like really picky and really like, but I do feel like if I really picking out of all the sign like I really like, I think that Virgo is one of them because they're actually getting things done. They're actually having that genuine care, being service of others. So even though sometimes can be really critical, but because also they're very critical for themselves as well, they have really high standard in a way, and so it's not saying they're trying to picking on you, is they are already having really high standard of everything and how things organized. And so like you said before, like it's really different, even though Virgo is also ruled by Mercury, but it's really different than Gemini. And Gemini is like more thought ideas, and they will appreciate by acknowledging all the ideas and all the communication as well. But Virgo is actually getting things done. And also I feel like Virgo is also associated with healing as well in a way, and it's really like connecting with the centaur, with the Chiron. I don't remember the association, but I definitely there's association with Chiron in a way.
And I think witchcraft as well, like it's a very witchy sign.
The pagan, right? Yeah, the pagan,
like the herbs and the making the potions and the healing and
So I think that's another thing. And also like in this month we also will have like the Venus Chiron like opposition in a way. So I feel like this is kind of like associated with, there's definitely a lot healing themes still in the body, and the like the emotion and the routine as well. Like I said, the Virgo is also a routine, and it's your daily basis, and that's where we actually is already bring a lot of thing into the chart, into the collective as well. And also, like I said, it really depends on where your Virgo are. So it's like this month will definitely activating that part of your life in your chart, and then that's where you need to pay more attention to, and then see, hey, where is the thing for me this month, so do you have anything to add?
No, just on that healing as well, I think you're right, like two things. So what came up when you were talking about the healing, so when the sun enters Virgo on the 23rd of August, which is today for us, it's immediately trines Chiron in Taurus. So I think there is this real theme of the body, like Virgo, the mind-body connection. I think the first part of the season is quite busy, and we're still in that eclipse window, like I talked about. And then there's this lead up. We'll talk about this, but there's this real lull. Like there's nothing happening for a week before the new moon. It's really strange. I haven't really seen that before. And it's like, so there's this kind of this big cluster at the start of the season, and then this like lull, and then this beautiful new moon in Virgo. So I think overall there's this really nice time to look at what nourishes us on a real physical level.
And also, sorry, it's just something coming to my mind as well. Like when I'm talking about the Chinese 八字 astrology and the earth element, there's also like in between seasons, literally in between summer and the autumn in the northern hemisphere right now, but also now is our in southern hemisphere from like it's literally this time, this is the earth period, and also Virgo's earth sign as well. It's talking about there's between a ending and a beginning, there's a transition. You need to integrating what is happening, what has lost, what has to be end, and then in order to like making tangible room and space for the new to come. So there's like you said, there's like a window in between the eclipse as well. Normally this window is actually to clarifying what you really want, what is serving you, what doesn't, and then therefore you're creating the space, and then to integrating what has happened, and therefore you're more able to moving on with with capability and resilience, rather than just, hey, let's just go. There's no like period in between. So there's like earth, like I think this month, the Virgo month, is basically a integration, transitioning period of time, and therefore to ready for the next what's coming. And for in the southern hemisphere, for us, it's like something new to coming because it's spring, right? So I think that's kind of like
and I mean that also beautifully mirrors the themes of the eclipses, which we're in this eclipse window, we're right in between the two eclipses. And we're going to be talking, we might as well start talking about this now. Because eclipses, each eclipse season is obviously different. And this eclipse season right now in August is really interesting because we had a solar eclipse on the
Leo and Aquarius
13th of August, and that was like a new moon, which is usually a new beginning. But it was a south node eclipse, which is always kind of an ending or something, not an ending, but like a falling away. Plus it was in Leo, which is the new cycle. So for the nodes have just switched signs. So we're still kind of in between these two cycles of Leo Aquarius axis of the nodes, which we're moving into now. And we've just left the Pisces Virgo axis, but there's an overlap. You know, it's not like there's like this clean break, and life is like that. You know, you can't just, there's like this ends and then this starts. And I think we're right in that. And it's like endings and beginnings, and it's in different areas of life as well. So they don't necessarily overlap either. And we're going to be talking about that as well from our personal stories. So, you know, I feel like this eclipse season, every eclipse season is a little bit like things are happening and you're not quite sure how it's going to land, and you're kind of like, I can feel this newness coming in, I can feel things falling away, but I'm not sure. And that's really normal in eclipse season, but I feel like this one is even more so because we're talking about two separate cycles, you know? So eclipses also, and I just want to say this as well, is that eclipses, yes, they are, you know, times of change, but they always reflect or trigger or are a catalyst of a larger cycle that's already going on with your life, you know? And those larger cycles are usually, well, mostly shown by the outer planet transits to your chart. So eclipses are like triggers to themes that are already been happening for the last 2 to 3 years, usually through an outer planet. So I just wanted to say that as well. So it's not just these like random moments. And that's why I think reflection is really good. And that's why I want to focus on it in this podcast, using this time as reflection to kind of look back at, oh, well, where was I over the last 2 years at these points in my life, and what's coming up for me right now for the next 2 years.
Yeah, and also I think I want to add on that as well, like when you're talking about the cycles like overlapping, and I think in my mind it's like even in the Bazi astrology is talking about the same thing as well. Like each cycle, for example, eclipse is like basically a 18-month chapter of your life in that axis of eclipse, right? So they come back like over and over again in a way, but it's the same theme. But like it's kind of like when you imagine you're in a timeline where it's like spiraling up. And then the same experiences, same thing, but you're dealing with differently. And then you kind of like complete what you started when you first start that cycle. So I think that, like I said, when we actually reflecting on what has happened and how you deal with differently, and that's where the healing happens, you know? And like we all going through similar time pattern in like the cyclical like way of being. And then when we're going up, and then we realize, okay, actually, that's how life has happened and how I chose differently. But of course, if you, for example, if the same thing happened over and over again, you chose to stay in the same response. And that's where you feel like, why I stuck in these experiences, right? So time always give you a chance to spiraling up and to okay, let's break this pattern of the theme like that my chart like I born with, right? I work on with it. So when you're having that like capability or like time or energy to reflecting on the pattern, and then you actually can help you to live this life in a much more harmonious, balanced way. You know, so I think that's kind of like really nice put on the cycle, like you're looking at the time pattern and then you're reflecting on, you know, the theme, and then therefore it's better to navigating rather than you feeling you're stuck in the same experiences. Actually, you're not, because you're already another level up, and then you have the choice, choose it differently. Yeah, and then we can talking about more. Yeah, because we definitely have a lot of personal story to share with those eclipses happening and how it's like happening in our life. Do you have anything to add on?
Yeah, and just, so basically, you know, you can take it even further. You can look at, you know, the last time Leo, the North Node was in Aquarius and the South Node was in Leo was in 2007 and 2009.
Yeah.
So you're going to have themes from those years coming up for the next 2 years. And the last time Pisces Virgo axis was just before then, so 2006 to 2007-ish. So again, you're kind of this similar themes. So think back to your life, like what was I doing, you know? And we're going to be talking more detail about that as we look at the eclipses. But yes.
All right. Shall we actually starting to share like a little bit about the eclipse, what happened?
Yeah, I'll share the chart.
Yeah. You mean the eclipse for the August or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, shall we starting to actually, because I think this chat is actually have a lot of things to talking about, but I also do want to, before we start, like I said, the cycle thing, I want to, this is kind of like invitation for our audience as well. Like when you, so we have some date, like written down about like when was last time this eclipse happening in the Virgo and Pisces axis. And for me, Virgo and Pisces is kind of like a practical and your dream, right? Yeah. So this is like
Yes.
what you're working on. Really depends on where your chart are. So for example, Virgo for me is in my third and fourth house, actually fourth house, and Pisces is like in my midheaven, which is my public with my career. So this for the last 18 months, and with this eclipse happening in the Virgo and Pisces axis, for me is definitely activating anything about my home situation and also my public persona or public career in a lot of ways. So actually when I really sit down and looking at what the event happening along this line, I realize recognize a pattern. For example, last 18 months I literally started my shamanic training, and that's when it started, and also finishing in this 18 months as well. So shamanic healing itself is like the Virgo theme and also the Pisces theme at the same time, because Virgo is the healing, is it's like being service of others and also dive deep, and Pisces is also like the intuitive and spiritual side of things as well. It's really connecting with them, and along the way, like each eclipses, and also like there's always combined with some home change situation. Even the thing recently I'm navigating as well is also about my home. It's about living situation, because I feel like I think now when I'm looking at it, I really realize, because the home is really important to me, and if the home is not settled, it's not good, my public pursuit, my public career won't going forward as well. They're going hands in hand, you know. So sometimes when we're looking at the axis, I feel like they're not separate, they're connected, you know. So even though you might be one thing activating maybe in your second house, and then it also activating in the eighth house, and the same thing like,
Sorry, just quickly, do you mind if we just show your chart, Fairy?
yeah, go for it.
Okay.
You have my chart, do you?
I do have your chart. Let's just show your chart, because I think this will be
Easier.
easier to see
Yeah.
just where you're talking. And yeah, so it's about 18 months, actually a little bit more. So the first lunar eclipse on the Virgo Pisces axis was in September 2024.
Yeah.
So it's almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And we've had several. And this one is the second to last eclipse.
Yes.
But
I
it's
still have to
definitely, we're wrapping up. We've still got one more eclipse on this axis.
Yeah, in the February 20th in 2027.
February
So, yeah.
2020, March. No, February. Right, February 2027. So
Yeah,
this
so
is
the
Mary's chart here, and you can see she's got Virgo both in the third and fourth house, but
Yeah.
you know, it's really the third house. And I think also what you were saying about home being really important to you, you can look at other things too. She's a Cancer rising, so obviously, you know, that's
Yeah.
home is important. But also, I think, and I have this too, we look also not just where Virgo is, but also see where your Mercury is, because Virgo
Yeah.
rules Mercury. Mercury rules Virgo.
Yes.
So, you know, so
Yeah,
actually, your
communication.
Mercury is in the sixth house. So, you know, having that tidy Virgo
Yeah.
home where it feels good is really important for your mental health, in terms of, you know, your daily like sixth house things, like being
Yeah.
able to think straight, being able to, like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And we can have a look at my chart in a minute as well to see kind of where that lands
Yeah,
for
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But, you know, also look at where your Mercury lands in your chart to see where that energy is
Yeah.
manifests, you know, in
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah, and also like I said, like the access, like they're walking hands in hand. Also your Pisces as well. You can
Yeah.
see my Pisces,
Yeah.
the ruler of
Pisces.
Pisces, Jupiter, is right on Virgo as well. So basically, my home and my career is literally hand in hand. So I cannot separate them from.
Yes.
For example, I cannot just, hey, my work's work, my home is home. No, they're connected, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, like all those patterns like showing up. For example, the first eclipse happening the September 17th, 2024, and that's where I started my needle felting art journey as well. I started to have my art exhibition, and that's the Pisces in the midheaven, in the the also being seen, and also my career, right? But I created all of these things at home because I feel this is like, if I don't have like really nice place for me to create, and then therefore I'm not able to produce, right? So that's kind of, and also at that time there's big massive change for my home situation, and there's a lot of like accumulated problem in the home, and I realize I need bigger space. I need, if I want to,
That's that Jupiter.
I want to be.
I need it bigger.
I do need to take. I take a lot of space in my home.
Yeah, I need a lot of space.
So that's when I decided to actually taking the whole lease, and then therefore I can have a home base. I can do healing. I can do like my home studio, but also I want to having a little bit of community as well, not just isolating myself. So that's like big, massive home change. And also I was just finishing the shamanic training and as well. So it's like happening at the same time. And then the 14th of March was the second of that axis, and that's in Virgo. I finished my shamanic training and I get my residency visa, which is like all the things related with my home, so like sorting things out. And then after that, September 7th of 2025, which is like the eclipses in Pisces, which is my midheaven, which is I starting to teach astrology courses. I starting to putting in my shamanic like healing practice into the public. And also at the same time, my home situation changes as well, because I think there's in between like the flatmate moving out and then moving in. So there's like transition in that time as well. So, and then like in September 21st, and then the solar eclipse in Virgo is I finally finished the 18-month sort of shamanic training and practicing, and then there's also another, in my home time, and there's also another flatmate moving in a way. So it's all entangled in different, there's something finished.
The themes are there.
Yeah, so, something finished, something in, and it's always home, your public things and your career. And then I think
sorry, this also shows that like just because the South Node is in Virgo doesn't mean letting go of all that, it's about like tending to your Virgo house as well, and so that you're able to move into your Pisces house, which is where the North Node is. So sorting out the stuff around your home so that you can move into your career. So what do you feel like over this journey? How is this accumulating? Because this, and we are going to look at the eclipse chart in a minute, this whole eclipse chart is about a culmination point. So how is it kind of all, what is it? Because I feel like this eclipse is about the reflection. And I think it's a very feeling eclipse because it's in Pisces. We can't, so maybe we're doing this wrong because we're using our Virgo minds. We're like trying to analyze it. But I do think like when you get to the eclipse, you're just going to have to feel it,
Yes. Yeah.
But let's just put on our cerebral hats for a minute. How do you think it's going to feel?
I don't know. How do I think I should feel? But I think definitely over the last 18 months, this pattern.
What have you learned through that cycle?
I do feel like I learned definitely a lot of things about communication for sure, because this also kind of like in the middle of the communication and my fourth house. I feel like it's kind of how I communicate, how I really utilizing that Virgo mind or the Virgo organization to putting like clear expectations of what I want. I think doing this experiences with different people coming in and out, and how I put myself out there and do all the things in my shamanic healing and all the things I have learned, accumulated, and then come to a clear sense of like what I really want. And also how can I communicate my expectations and need in a more like objective way, rather than like yes, we feel all the feelings in our body, but also this last 18 months and with all those experiences, like I think just really put in a position now I'm really clear what I want, what I need, and I know how to communicate that in a way that can actually help me to feel comfortable at home, but also organized and to pursue things I really want in life. But it's not easy. Like every single eclipse, I think there's always some like you said, the feeling, because eclipse is always connecting with sun and moon, right? The moon sun is our consciousness and moon is our emotion. You cannot separating this. Like it's kind of like bring things to your awareness you hasn't be able to address, or you try to avoid it to address. Because I think that's what I learned. Sometimes I don't want addressing it, and the eclipse is like, okay, there we go, another person, another person to deal with it. And so this time I have to say, hey, I need to deal with it. And like I said before, the healing process is like you're going through experiences, similar experiences, not for punishment. It's giving you a chance to say, hey, how can I responding it differently? Therefore, I can break the pattern. Therefore, you can moving forward with harmony, with balance, with clarity in mind, and without like holding the grudge of ending things. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of like what I learned, the communication side of things and what I really want in home, and also how I want to pursue my career, how I want to put myself out there in a more clear way. So it's like all the things but you have to going through this. And Eclipse, knowing the pattern will help you bring more awareness to it. But it cannot take away the experiences. You have to going through these experiences and to make your own
because that's what
reflection.
the eclipses involve the moon. We have to feel it. We have to experience it. I do think it's interesting, and just quickly this because the Leo eclipse that we just had was actually in your third house as well.
Yeah.
So it's almost like there is this theme. This theme for you is there is like this theme from the last 2 years and the next 2 years around communication, around your immediate surroundings, third house. So there is actually a similar theme, but I think it shifts from that Virgo, and this is the shift that we're feeling in the other direction. So the Virgo, the more cerebral, into the Leo, the more authentic expression of yourself, you know? Rather than thinking and analysing and doing the detail, it's now ready to be expressed. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about, I think if you can put your chart on and see.
I'm not sure whether I'm as can you see that? No.
No.
Doesn't want to be shared. I'm not sure whether I'm as conscious as you are with this one. I'm still trying to figure out I know one of my patterns. Maybe you can shed some light on it too. This is my chart here.
Yeah.
So really similar to, Fery and I have a very similar axis. We have both Cancer rising. So our houses fall very similarly. We both have a Pisces midheaven and a Virgo IC. For me as well, this eclipse is actually happening in what degree is the eclipse? Ooh, I should know that. Is it 4?
You mean which degree?
4 degrees. So it's actually, it's pretty close to my IC. It's still kind of in the third house. But, you know, the last 2 years, from September 17th through to now, it's been moving through my 4th house into my 3rd house. And I think the biggest theme that I've seen is that I've literally built a house. I've built a home for myself. And it started in September, you know. And one of the things I've had to let go of through that building process is a lot of Virgo perfectionism. I've had to really trust and surrender, which I think is a very Pisces theme, you know, trust and surrender the process. It hasn't been, I've had this really, it's definitely a dream of mine, this house. It's not realistic right now. It's 10 hours away from me right now. It's, you know, it's in a place where I can't get too often. But yes, I've kept going, you know, with that Virgo kind of like just one step at a time, that Earth kind of, and I have no Earth in my chart, you know, apart from Neptune, which isn't a lot of help. So, you know, that's been another component for me, is that kind of, and the nodal axis too, because we have to look at where our nodes are as well. So my node is in my north node is in Taurus. Again, I have no Earth. So it's definitely, it triggers your own nodal axis as well. So when we're looking at any transit of the nodes, look at where the nodes are in your chart. So for me, it's in the 11th house. Building this house has been a huge dream. I I don't know. People are like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just have to trust and wait and see what happens. I do think long term, I really feel like, and I hope that this will be a place where I can run retreats and I can,
Yeah, that's literally what I'm gonna say. Because
step
yeah,
into, but it's not clear yet, and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
literally this week I am going to get sign off. So the house is built, it's done, it's finished. So
yeah,
it's been a very clear
yeah,
run.
yeah.
Same thing for me, Virgo. My Mercury's in the 12th house, so I need my home to be really
Organized, yeah,
organized for my mind to be, and it needs to be a retreat. My home needs to be a retreat
yeah,
for
yeah, yeah,
myself. I need to be
yeah,
able to retreat back.
yeah,
And also, I think the Pisces, yes, the Jupiter,
yeah.
but also obviously the modern ruler is Neptune. And I've, in the last 2 years, have gone through a separation and a divorce. It's been more like 3 years, but literally just signed the divorce documents last week. And there's been a lot of grief come up from that. And I do feel like, Pisces and Neptune especially do
Yeah,
bring up grief. They bring
yeah,
up loss and endings and a dissolving of the
yeah.
old.
And
Um,
confusion as well.
Pardon?
Confusion. There's a lot of confusion along the way.
Confusion, yeah.
Yeah,
So there's been, and I'm not sure, like, well, I think there's something around that that's still kind of there's clarity coming with that relationship having fallen away. There's slowly
yeah,
clarity coming. There was a lot of doubt and a lot of confusion and a lot of like what happened.
yeah,
Even though I felt, and again, that Pisces energy wants you to feel, it wants you
yeah,
to trust your intuition. I knew it was the right thing,
yeah,
but there was like so much that was like, why? And why does this feel right? And I think
yeah,
this culmination, and Neptune is on my descendant, so my
yeah,
partnership house. So
yeah,
I do have rose-colored glasses on with people. I see the best in people.
yeah,
And I can also, I don't feel like I've been deceived, but that can be a signature of Neptune in the descendant, you know.
yeah, yeah, can
There can
be.
be that element of deception
Yeah,
from
and
other
also another
people.
thing I noticed one thing when you're talking about, so when we look talking about the Virgo and Pisces like and was that axis, right? And I noticed, for example, the Mercury is in the ruler of the Virgo, right? It's actually in your 12th house and it's conjunct with your Chiron. And 12th house is basic when you're talking about the home. I think like you said, literally says like I want home be retreat because 12th house is retreat. It's isolation. I want to
Yeah,
be able to
yeah,
recharge, but also because 12th house is also quite hidden. So therefore, you feel like you feel things, but you couldn't pinpointing what it is. What's
yeah.
the dream just yet? I think that's kind of really tied into that as well. But also, I also feel because it's also this eclipse activating the Virgo and the Pisces axis for you, and the wound, the past life wound, will just literally show up in the entanglement with the relationship you had, or the loss, or the divorce, and all those things is tied into that. But the good thing is because I can see, the Jupiter in the Pisces in Aquarius is actually on your ninth house, which is the belief and the faith, the hope, and
Yeah,
also your spiritual belief. I think those like progress of divorce, of building a home and being more clear about what you want in life, I think is actually kind of like a spiritual awakening in a way, like to enhance what you actually believe in and what you actually. And also I believe there's a lot of like a spiritual side of training as well involved. I'm not sure with that Jupiter in Aquarius in the ninth house during the 18 month. I think that's kind of like a big thing with the Mercury conjunct Chiron. There's a lot of old wound, past life entanglement, and being tied into like relationships and then, like your home environment and partnership. And also therefore the whole progress actually helping you to having a little bit spiritual awakening, and what I believe in, what is actually utilizing for my spiritual practice, and also what's your career as well, because I think it's also tied with your career, and like how you want to put things out there, what is your value, what is your belief in that way. Is that making
yeah,
sense? That's how I
yeah.
observe, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the house I built is very isolated. You can't get any further away in New Zealand.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And I love it, and it is that retreat for me, and I think it will Yeah. So, and then I just want to talk back to the Leo eclipse as well, which is in my third. And obviously, this is all moving into my third as well. So these eclipses are all happening in my third.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into this too much because I know we've already talked about our personal stuff, but just very briefly, it moves into the themes of I've recently been diagnosed as neurodivergent, which can be a whole nother topic. But I think that, that's all that third house, Virgo, Mercury, Chiron. But it comes, I feel like the neurodivergence is such a small part of my journey right now.
Yeah.
It's like the start, because again, looking at the larger cycle of what I'm in, I've got Uranus going through here over the next, 13 years. And it's so close to my Mercury now.
Yeah.
It's going to be like the next 2-3 years are just going to be Uranus on these planets for me. So that, I think, is, you can look at the larger cycle and see what that's trying to show and what you're moving towards, So and we won't go into that too much now, but
one thing I want to add it on. So for our audience, and if you want looking at reflecting back on how the eclipse and affecting your life, so you can go to the Astrology. They have eclipse like time. So you can just search eclipse date or something, and they will have like a specific eclipse date, and then you can checking on and then see the chart and see where that affect you. Because I think
put that into the link, like the description. Yeah, we'll put that into that link into the description, because I think that's really good.
Yeah, so you can just looking at the date and see what's happening, and then just sit with it, having a reflection, and then you realize, what I have learned from this cycle, even though this cycle hasn't really finished just yet. But you are more prepared, more equipped of what it is. Like I said before, like we're going through similar experiences. If you don't recognize the pattern, therefore you just keep repeating it, because you're just under like autopilot mode, and then just keep repeating the same mechanism, right? But once you're having awareness, you have the power to choose. Do I want to respond the same way as I used to, or do I want to respond it differently? So with that in mind, there's always, because we all we're all in relationship with everything. If you choose responding differently, the other person will feel that as well. And like, that's kind of like dynamic change, And if you want a better outcome of whatever you're wishing for, so you have to be able to change within yourself. If you still carrying all those emotional charge and all that, and of course the outcome won't be able to go as you wish. You're basically just repeating the whole same situation. So I think that's just kind of thing I want to mention now, and then people can actually, this is basically, we're talking about our personal stuff. It's not just, it's all about us. It's really actually invitation, being vulnerable to, hey, you are able to doing this as well, because it's really like valuable for this reflection of how we're navigating this quite like eclipse always kind of intense and also emotional, and can be really like unclear, and you feel like confused in a way. But with this reflection, you can actually navigate this with more clarity, even though.
And I think sometimes it's even just knowing, having something to anchor into, or knowing can bring a lot of more self-compassion to your own journey,
I think that's the conversation we had before, right? I think we realized like why, like I asked her, why you need a label, right? And that's my invitation, saying, hey, like sometimes our mind, we are human. We sometimes worried. We sometimes like, I don't know what's on hold for us in the future. Like our mind like to think. But when we having, for example, the astrology or any other things you like to go to, and it's something help you to calm your mind. It's something help you to anchoring, having a language of it. And for me, I feel like it was more about like I told Sandra before, like the communication is big thing for me as well. The wound with the sun conjunct my Mercury and combust my Mercury, that kind of stuff. And I do genuinely in my time, I feel like my whole life, I feel like I was always being misunderstood. And therefore the wound over there is like, for me, like when I'm looking at chart, I feel like, okay, no one else understands me, but the chart does. It's like finding that comfort, finding that understanding. It's like you feel like you're connecting with the greater things rather than just yourself. And yeah, so like I said, it is okay to, for example, sometimes I think we had some conversations like sometimes we need to using chat GPT to like just soften out what I will say. You know.
Yeah.
Just because so many times, like I think a lot of people going through neurodivergent diagnosed or not, and with this experiences like you always being misunderstood, but actually like therefore we always like unconsciously or consciously choosing to like masking or choosing to be, we want to fit in, we want to be accepted. But actually, what if should be the other way around? If we will all educate ourselves to accepting the difference and to know we communicate differently,
Yeah.
therefore the world will be better, isn't it? Instead of trying to be in the same mode, the same way of communication, and always being polite, always being nice, and which is so inauthentic. Like systematically, we're building up in that way.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's also a
Everyone
very big
trying
Leo
to,
theme as well. Like how you express yourself authentically without masking yourself, but still people know it doesn't have bad intention. It just that's how you communicate, right?
yeah.
So it's a big theme, and I think we're
Yes.
going to dive into deep more with the neurodivergent
Yes.
side of things with
Yeah.
astrology lens. I think that's a really interesting topic later on. Yeah.
I think the other thing with astrology that's just come up for me when you were talking was also like it gives us not just a language but also a why. You
Yeah.
know, why am I like this?
Yeah.
What have I come into this world with, and why did I come into this world? What am I here to experience? And then it becomes less of like being a victim to these things.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it gives you agency, it gives you empowerment to work
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
yourself rather than against yourself, trying to be someone you're not. But then also, that why of like, well, why, you
Yeah.
know, do
Yeah.
I not have any earth in my chart? Rather than trying to
Yeah. But
rather than
also,
trying to be something I'm not. And obviously, it also teaches me that I need to work a little bit harder on feeding myself and, you know, all that sort of stuff because that's hard. Um,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
also like, well, why? Rather than
Yeah.
trying to be something you're not. So, yeah, I
Yeah,
just wanted to add
yeah,
that.
yeah, and also like adding on to that as well, like for example, you understand why, right? So I think a lot of people sometimes like afraid of astrology or any kind other kind of divination, just say, oh, I don't want to anything say negative about myself, right? But I think that's kind of like when you're looking at why, it's because we all have our own unique blueprint, right? So we understand, for example, you have strengths, you have weakness, but the weakness is not something like a curse, because some people will see the weakness or negative side placement as a curse. I don't want to deal with this. This is not. I don't want to believe in this because of this, right? But then I realized actually, when you know your weakness, you know you have compassion towards yourself, saying, "Hey, this is something I didn't come up easy with, right? This is something I need conscious effort on, right?" And then instead of like with the mindset saying I'm afraid of it or I'm denying it, when you're having acceptance, it's actually okay. Now I know. For example, like in my own situation, I always know like my seventh house, and in my real experiences, like the partnership is never easy for me, right? But if maybe before I would take, oh, okay, if this is a curse, I'm not doing it. You know, I'm just gonna avoiding it, and that's
You
where I
can't avoid it because you've got
I
crazy
cannot.
planets in the seventh house.
Yeah. So I just cannot. And then when I really consciously saying, hey, I consciously choosing to walking with it. I want to growth. I want to be able to like communicate my need and how I relate to people. And it's not trying to change myself in a way, but like how can I still being authentic myself, but also I can working on this something maybe I'm not good at, you know, but I'm still there's like a space for improvement. There's space for a better relating with others, you know, because I can so easily just be on my own, like so happy. There's no problem. But when I always relate to someone, there's always something coming up. Some part maybe me, some part with the other person. We're always mirroring each other wounding. And then that's where the chance for you to actually the real healing happens, how you choose differently. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. It reminds me of my partner. He's got his son on the descendant in the seventh house. And before he met me, he was like sworn to being single forever. And I was like, yeah, good luck with that, with a son in the seventh house.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's. Are we ready to move on to the transits? Well,
Yeah.
we already talked about the eclipse quite a lot. I'll bring it up. The themes of the eclipse anyway. But let's just have a look at.
Yeah.
Actually, no. Cancel. Let's have a look at the actual chart. So I'll just bring it up. Full moon. So it is a lunar eclipse, which is a full moon. And at the risk of sounding like a broken record, eclipses are just full.
Oh, do you want me to share that picture for the eclipse?
Mhm,
I have
it's
like
coming.
a more clear chart. Is that okay?
That one?
No. Like I have like, because I
yeah,
have
I just
like
don't really
a
want the
chart.
notes up.
Sorry?
I just don't really want the notes up.
No. I have the separate picture of that.
Okay, do you want to put that one up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
it's a full moon. The full moon. So eclipses happen around full and new moons when they're close to the nodes. Okay. And basically eclipses are full and new moons on steroids. I always say they feel bigger, they are bigger, they create change, they create a little bit of chaos.
you see that?
Yep. And here's the eclipse chart here. So we can see here, oh, you have to move your mouse, not me. We can see the full moon, so sun, moon in opposition. The sun is conjunct Mercury, so we had the Mercury cazimi just before, which is when the sun and the moon are conjunct. So I feel like these, and then the moon is in Pisces and it's square Uranus in Gemini, which is also ruled by Mercury. So I think like this full moon for me, when I first looked at this chart, is very much about a lot of activity in the mind, but we're being with the North Node close to the moon, North Node in Aquarius, so another air sign. But it's like we're asked to feel what's coming up and analyze it.
Yeah.
We're asked, and we might get some really great breakthroughs because we've got that Uranus square.
Yeah.
We also, I think there's that T square. So with the Uranus, the opposite sign to a T square. Sorry, not a T square. So the opposite sign in Sagittarius is the opposite sign is Sagittarius. So I think that's always a nice release point when you're looking at a square like that. And I think taking into consideration bigger picture, like just what we talked about, this is such a great moment to use that Sagittarius energy of looking at the bigger picture, reflecting on what has been, thinking about it, and then integrating that into your body through the moon in Pisces, feeling it. For me, it's been feeling the grief, but also analyzing my relationship, my marriage over the last 20 years, and feeling that, feeling and also analyzing. And I'm sure I've already had some breakthroughs, and it can also be unexpected. Uranus and Gemini, it can be unexpected information that comes up. I think it can be out of the blue things. It's very cerebral, and Virgo wants to get it sorted. Virgo's like, okay, well, let's just move on and get it sorted. But I do feel like we have to feel this. The thinking your way to a resolution is not going to work. It's going to have to be
And also, like, I think I want to mention thing, because you can see here we have the Mercury cazimi, right? So I actually trying, because I can't remember what it is. I remember when I learned horror astrology, we have a specific technique about the cazimi. And so basically in horror practice saying like, the definition of the cazimi is basically any planet is within 17 minutes of the sun. So I think different technique will be different degrees in a way, right? But yes, it's basically like when you consider a planet in the center of the sun, right? And then we call that a purification period under crisis. So it's basically when you're in the center of the sun, so you're not burned out by the sun. You're in the center of the essence of the sun. And then therefore somehow you are being balanced, strengthened in a way. And also the cazimi planet shows someone or something going through fundamental change and being in some way strengthened, rebalanced, and or purged of formal problems, which I think still can apply in a like normal sense as well, not just in horror practice, because I think I really like that stuck with me. So like when I really looking at the cazimi, especially Mercury, is our thinking, is our communication, is our like like it's basically linking with our mind. So I feel like you are much more clear, like a realization, like clarity of that moment of okay, what this crisis actually bring me for. So it's not about like okay, I'm mourning or crying about the crisis. Like what's the realization, what is the aha moment that can help me to moving forward with you. It's kind of like you're in the center of the storm, right? But that center of the storm is the calmness, the stillness, is the void, and that's where you're very, very clear. You are not entangled with all the external things that appear to happening maybe in your story. But I think that's a moment. So that's why I feel like this eclipse will bring a moment of clarity in a lot of way. But also because it's you can see this, like you said, a T square, like squaring the sun, also squaring the moon, and in the middle of it, and with Uranus really like sudden, like surprise, and in Gemini. And for me, it's not, like I said, it's not thinking your way through. It's kind of like unexpected, like resolution, creative resolution, like coming just dropped. I was like, oh, okay. Why I didn't think about that? Because when we trying to using our pattern or using how things used to be to solve an old problem, of course it's not going to work. But there's something like a download. You just like, oh, okay, why I think this way? It's kind of like, and also like maybe unexpected conversation as well. And to make this, I feel like, because I think the Uranus is like the middle point between, it's kind of like now the sun is speaking a language of I want a practicality, and the moon speaking a language of I want to dream, I want idealistic. It's like there's two doesn't speak the same language, but the Uranus in between saying like, hey, there's another way of doing this. Like you can understand both sides of things, so therefore, and then bring a resolution between this kind of like a position like in this eclipse. So I think that's in a way, so for me, yes, it can be like, because when Uranus involved and you always expected something unexpected or shaken up and all that. So, and also it's in Gemini, it's low like that. Basically your nervous system just like, okay, I'm not sure what's going on, but this thing's happened, but definitely, even though, because like I said, Uranus is for liberation. I want to free you from this situation. You feel so entangled or, and so, definitely for me, it's like a reality check, but also it's like finding, accepting or embracing, surrendering to a creative, like, resolution. But also another thing I noticed here is like, I'm not sure how you're taking on this, the Jupiter and Saturn. Can you see this?
The trine. Yeah,
and also this like little triangle is always going to be there, the like we talked before as well. But I feel like the Saturn and Jupiter trine is actually quite interesting thing going on. I haven't come to a point what is that, but I do feel like there's a supportive energy going on there with all those fiery energy adding onto it, because you can see this it's not all fire, like there's like different element here, but I think it's the fiery energy.
It's a mutable moon, so it's not very stable.
So I think adding on like a lot of fire energy in general, and I haven't having come to like a sense of what it is, but just noticing there's like between this like square, like we're looking for resolution in this like in between sort of like eclipse season, right? So this is kind of like things come to fruition, come to resolution, and but there's a actual layer of things happening in the background as well. So
Well, no, I think you're right. I think it's definitely not a time to force decisions, but I think surrendering into what comes up and taking stock of what's coming up in relation to what's been happening over the last 2 years is kind of the way to work with this one.
And also like in full moon, the eclipse in general, I think is also letting go as well. Like that's just a general thing. But also I do feel like I really like the Mercury cazimi over there, because I feel like it's a really moment of truth, and you just really be honest with yourself and what is actually works, what doesn't. Because like moon can be overly thinking about idealistic, like you said, put a rose lens to things, and rather than checking actually does it really actually works, right?
Yeah.
You can see the best potential in people, but if people doesn't want to working with it, and even though you basically fall in love in the potential rather than like the reality of it, just not seeing things as it is. And also I still feel like there's a strong healing theme as well. Like in this opposition, it's kind of like the Pisces, the grief, and the intuitive side of things coming up. And but the Virgo is like, now how can I catching up, and how can I integrating what has been showed up and what need to be released, right? Because event happens on the day, on the moment, but sometimes our body doesn't able to catching up. I think that's the same thing in shamanic healing as well. We say like spiritual healing is easy, it's quick, fast, clear, but normally your body taking weeks, even months to purge and to integrate. It's very body based. So I feel like even in the last eclipse happening, I feel like my own story and also other people's story as well, I feel it's a lot of body, like the Chiron in Taurus and also the Virgo season is a lot of healing in the body. So what I can suggest here, right? If sometimes maybe you don't know what's going on. Like I had a friend basically had like 3 days on the go with the headache, like migraine, and couldn't get over it. And there's nothing, yes, of course, things stressful and whatever, but it doesn't to that extent. It's kind of like your body reacting to a trigger and then all the old stuff coming up, you know? And so therefore, I feel like this full moon is also same thing, eclipse, not able to do any ritual and all that, but clearing and letting go, you know, because...
And I think with that mutable energy as well, you know, it is very unstable. It is very quick, come and go, come and go. I'm also looking at the days after the eclipse. You know, like you said, we've got that Jupiter will be coming trine exact to Saturn. So there is that support there, but it's in fire.
Yeah.
And then there's also Mars, which is going to be squaring Saturn over the next couple of days after the eclipse, which is a hard aspect. It's in Cancer. So again, that body element, square Saturn. So there's, you know, and then also... Mercury, but Mercury's will be sextiling Saturn. So I think Mars in Cancer is another interesting one this month as well. Because there's that square to Saturn, and Mars, you know, in Cancer is in its it's in its fall, so it's not overly comfortable in Cancer, although I don't actually, personally, I don't agree with the planetary dignities, but that's a whole nother podcast. I don't fully agree with them, but, you know, in a traditional sense, Mars isn't very happy in Cancer. But I think there is something about Mars in Cancer that's very protective, that's very... you know, Mars in Cancer will fight for its home, for its family, for its...
Mars in Cancer definitely bring up that passive-aggressive energy.
That too, yes.
Yeah.
But I also feel like it is a real, like, mama bear type energy as well. You know? So I think there's things around this. I'm not sure. I actually don't know how to quite... That Saturn square Mars, how that's going to... But it's right after the eclipse.
Because I feel like I think I can see that clearly. Thank you for mentioning, because I think that happened already in like last eclipse, because Mars in Cancer already, like it's already happening. But I think it's just now kind of like building things up. I think that like in my personal life, I can see it playing out so clearly how it works. For example, I know you don't agree with the dignity, but I'm going to do talking about dignity.
I don't not agree with it, but I just...
So Mars in Cancer...
I think it's a little outdated in some respects, but yes.
Yeah, so Mars in Cancer is 4, right? I cannot remember, it's 4 or something.
It's 4,
it's not comfortable. And then for me, it's because Mars want to do things. I want to act with my desires. But also because I think when it's in a water sign, it's kind of like lost the power to act. And then you stuck yourself in the emotional process and all that. And so that's why I'm saying like Mars in Cancer for me always will bring some passive aggressive thing, because kind of like you can't not communicate your need or act directly in a way. and that's where kind of like the power being sort of like restricted in a way, but not in a bad way. I think people having that, for example, people really sensitive, really like protective, their like in the world will be kind of like really, like you said, protecting my inner peace, protecting my home. But sometimes maybe coming out the energy will be passive aggressive behavior, right? But when the square with Saturn, I feel like it's kind of like feeling restricted, feeling like the wall hitting, like, even though maybe not the reality, maybe not. And also Saturn in Aries is also in 4 as well.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of like those kind of authority acting out of their own, like, it's me first, it's all about me, right? It's not because Saturn actually, if you really like, if like indignity is can be like really wise one, like really good, like a moral authority. But when it's in Aries, it's coming out of like, okay, I make the rules, you listen to me, it's kind of like that. So therefore triggered those Mars maybe trying to protect their own autonomy, like my territory, because Cancer can be really territorial, saying, hey, this is my home, this is my space, and I don't agree with this, I cannot do this. But also the both in the, like in horror astrology, we're talking about when the planet is in out of dignity, they were acting out of character. You know what I mean? So like, for example, not in their best way. So not saying like they are bad, it just they're not comfortable in their own skin. In this sign, it's kind of like you being a guest in this sign, which is not some energy I'm familiar with. I can reach my best potential in a way.
Yeah.
Therefore, this kind of like really definitely like a authority dynamic and the power struggle in this, and also creating some emotional reactivity into the daily life you might create, and also really depends on where the sign are, for example, which house is in, and then that will be manifesting in a way. So there, I think the suggestion here is really kind of like a checking your emotions, how you're communicating it, and where you feel powerless. And also, is that authority figure you encounter is a projection of your past experiences, or is that actually, what happened? So there's like a lot of reflection in this dynamic between.
And there is a sextile from Mars to Mercury during that square. So I think you're right. There is this opportunity to actually speak from your truth.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the ease, is that from, when we have a sextile or a trine to a hard aspect, then that can be a way to kind of ease the pressure as well.
Yeah, and also like the Jupiter is also kind of like trining Saturn, so I think it also can help people. For example, when Saturn is 4 in Aries, and they're saying like, oh, what is actually authentic leadership looks like? I don't need to assert my authority or control just purely out of my desire, So I think this definitely there's like support, or like this some influence will ease the situation, even though this so I think that's kind of like it's already playing out. It's just like it will be more obvious, or like really depends on the chart and how it's activating your personal planet. And so I think that's kind of really interesting dynamic going on with this eclipse. So that's what I'm saying, like it's a lot of things happening at the same time. And I think just really be mindful with your communication, how you put the energy out there, and checking in, am I being passive aggressive, and am I being like emotionally reactive? And I think you do need to come back to that, like I said, the center of the storm energy, like, okay, go back to the center of the storm, so I can have that Mercury cazimi help, saying like, what's the clarity? How can I moving forward with more creative resolution and finding the middle ground, rather than purely out of like, I want to do this in this way,
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, great. Awesome. So that's the days after the eclipse. So I think, and then there's a really interesting window. So from about September 4th, when we have the last quarter moon in Gemini, to the new moon in Virgo on the 11th, there are like no real aspects.
Okay.
So there's like a week where there's just like this lull. So I think there's so much intensity.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to need that. So I want you to put this in your diary, September 4th to September 11th. Try and just be okay if there's not much happening, especially because there's been so much happening. Try and be okay, and really focus on those Virgo traits. Like, your daily routines. How can I nourish myself in small daily routines right now? You know, how can you kind of keep your mind clean, I guess, in some ways? Like maybe don't doom scroll, or, you know, like,
meditate.
You know, meditate or read a nice book, or, you know, watch a TV show that's wholesome for you. You know, I don't know. Go out in nature, but use that lull, because I think that is going to be the processing week, where we process the eclipse energy, which is intense, before the new beginning on September 11th. And we process it in a Virgo way through the mind into the body, so that there's this real opportunity that it can land, you know? So I think it's such a gift, even though it could feel quite weird. I'm going to be really interested to see what happens that week. I'm hoping not too much, and maybe it'll feel really like jarring, you know? There's just almost this like,
because I think I think that's really, like I said before, we mentioned the the earth element, the transition period of time. I think that's exactly matching that. And I think, like, for my personal experience, like last eclipse, like really bring a lot of things up to me, and I really felt in my body, like, for example, like, even though like things starting sorting out, like my body taking days to recover. And like my gut feel hurt, and my suddenly my, you know, digestion doesn't feel good, and I take more time to sleep, you know, and it just, your body will just, hey, like, I'm really tired of this, you know. There's like a lot intensity, like I said, the fire and all the mutable signs really like unstable in a way. So I think this give you some time. Actually, I'm happy there's no transit in between this. You know what I mean? Let's just have a rest, okay?
Use it to rest.
Yeah, we just need rest. I think it just, like, so sometimes we just really need to be okay with the void, because sometimes that's the beauty of it, and that's where, like, you really leaning into that, like I said, the Mercury cazimi, like in the center of the storm. There's nothing happening. There's no thought, no emotions, and just me and with what is within me, you know. So I think that's actually really, really good timing for us to actually prepare, because now we actually really prepare things to moving forward. Like I said, Virgo season will be busy, but you have to be ready, because Virgo definitely like get things down, the detail things and the contract and like all the communication, organizations. You will be busy. You will have time to be busy. So don't worry about it. This time, just rest and be clear and cleansing and releasing. And there's a lot of healing need to be done in this period of time.
Because the new moon in Virgo, let's go and move on to that. The new moon
I have
in
the
Virgo,
picture as well. Just hang on a minute.
It's a lovely kite.
Oh, yes. Sorry. I was thinking about something else. I was write a note. I cannot remember what's the word for it. Kite. I write night for it. Right, okay. Share this.
So Venus. So just before this new moon, we have Venus entering Scorpio.
This one?
Yes.
Yeah.
So just before the new moon, we have Venus entering Scorpio and Mercury entering Libra.
Yeah.
And they both make contact with Chiron. So they both, Venus squares Chiron as she moves into Scorpio.
Yeah.
And there's a Venus Chiron opposition. Sorry, Venus opposes Chiron. Sorry. Venus opposes Chiron.
Yeah.
So
it's their degree. Venus in Scorpio, Chiron in Taurus. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's going to be, you know, that's an intense opposition. I think that can bring up.
Yeah.
Bring
we'll
up
talk
stuff.
about that later.
Yeah. And we also have Uranus retrograding the same day. So there's quite a lot. Again, there's this lull, and then there's just around the new moon. And this is kind of what I'm seeing this month. It's kind of like around the full and the new moon, there's a lot of activity. So Uranus stations retrograde. As I said, Mercury and Chiron, they have a quincunx. So that's always that kind of slightly uneasy feeling. So Mercury in Libra wants justice and fairness.
Yeah.
You know, and then, like I said, the Uranus stationing retrograde at 5 degrees of Gemini, 5 degrees for 2 minutes. And
Yeah.
then we've got the new moon itself, which forms this beautiful kite with Uranus and Pluto.
Yeah.
Well, actually, sorry, no. The new
No,
moon,
it's the Mercury was formed
the
from the
Mercury
kite.
forms.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Mercury forms the kite during
Yeah.
the new moon.
Yeah.
The new moon itself is sextile Mars in Cancer.
Yeah.
So that kind of journey of Mars through Cancer again comes to a conversation with the new moon in Virgo. I feel like the new moon itself is very grounded and practical.
Yeah.
It's definitely a good new moon, I think, for setting intention. I don't always say that about new moons, but I think it's a really good one for setting intentions
Yes.
around,
Yeah.
especially Virgo things like routines and health and daily structures. And,
Yeah.
you know, I think there is, but there is this kind of sense of something being a little bit off with that Chiron Mercury as well.
Yeah.
Is actually forming a yod with the North Node in Aquarius.
Oh yeah.
If you can put the North Node in there, yeah, it's not
Yes,
shown
yeah.
on that picture,
Yeah,
but it's
but
actually forming a yod.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it can feel like something's a little bit off without necessarily resolving it straight away.
Yeah.
But there's this sense of fate pushing us into a new beginning with the North Node there as well. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I think it's despite the mixed bag surrounding it, you know, despite that Scorpio Chiron opposition in this yod, I'd say that it is a really promising new moon. The Virgo wants to solve the puzzle.
Yeah.
And I do think that this is the moment where we have that clarity, especially if we've taken that week before to kind of settle. Mercury, as I said, is forming that kite with Uranus and Pluto and Aquarius. So there's this breakthrough energy into the new beginning.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the eclipse energy is settling. And it's almost like Virgo's picking up the pieces and putting them back together again. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. I think what I forgot. Oh, I remember. Yeah, I think like the kite, for example, in general, like you said, I agree with this new moon is like one of the new moon like we actually needing setting attention, get things done. Yeah, because I think with the kite, because the kite is basically, you know, that you can see the picture here, the trine and the sextile, and that's forming a kite in here. So in the kite configuration is normally quite supportive and supporting
Mercury is the ruler of the new moon.
Yes.
So it's a really important planet. So we look to what Mercury is doing. Yeah.
Yeah, and also because I feel like the releasing point is also in Mercury too, in Libra. So for me, like it's like big support in the background, and the kite, the releasing point is actually in Mercury. And so it's basically asking, because you can see when Mercury is in Libra, and also because in 0 degree is actually quite potent, because 0 degree is like really potent degrees started beginning in so many different ways. And so for me, it's like this need to resolve in a fair, balanced way with Libra fashion. So like, and also Mercury's communication is, you know, the message you're putting out there, the thinking is like you really need to, no matter what's bring up in the eclipse, what's settling up, now you have to approach it in a more objective and diplomatic approach rather than like with all the emotional charge. So I think that's kind of, and also I think another thing, because this Mercury is connecting with Uranus in Gemini, and also like you said, is I think exactly station retrograde on that day as well, right?
Yeah.
So when a planet station direct or retrograde, so that's a moment of stillness too.
And
so
it's louder. Usually the planet is a lot loud, like it's a lot louder.
Yeah. So that's with energy like
Energy can be
amplified.
amplified,
Amplified. It's a stillness, like really pure, potent Uranus energy in that moment, and like connecting with a 0 degree of Mercury. So they all, and also Mercury is also ruling the Gemini as well. So this is also back to the emphasis of the Mercury of the communication, your thinking, how you think about things. So for me, it's like the Uranus will, like I said, like a download, like really like moment of, oh, I can do this way, rather than like how you normally think things should be. And I think that's kind of like more louder and clear in that way. And also connecting with the Pluto in Aquarius, I also feel like there's definitely some power dynamic that Pluto brings to the surface. Therefore, you need to communicate with. Like, where's your power? Where are you having giving your power away? And yeah, I think that's kind of like.
And I
this
think Venus opposing Chiron, Venus and Scorpio opposing
yeah, yeah,
Chiron will
yeah.
also
It's in the
bring that
underworld
power
as well.
dynamic.
Yeah, power down.
Really
It's
into the,
connecting with Pluto too. Yeah, so that's
yeah,
what I'm talking
yeah.
about later bit as well. So this Venus is in Scorpio, connecting with the Pluto. Yeah, and also, like you said, Mercury is also the ruler of the new moon, and this new moon is also sextile with the Mars. I think, actually, I do feel like Mars in Cancer actually playing a really important role in this month. And yeah, and also, yeah, so I think so this sextile, like I said before, the dynamic with the Saturn with Jupiter, and is actual support or emotional incentives that motivate you to get things done and to have a fresh new start, because Mars is charged, right? And it's kind of like, okay, the moon want to get the new moon, will want to setting a new chapter, want to get things done. But the Mars is adding on some motivation. Like, I emotionally fulfilled. I feel motivated to do these things rather than I feel, oh, okay, I'm just going to rest or whatever. So there's actually really good like support from Mars in that way. You have that emotional fulfillment to push you, okay, I want to get things done because this fulfills me, right?
Yeah.
This fills my cup. So yeah, I think that's actually quite another good thing. The only, like I said, the only off bit is going to be the Venus like opposing the Chiron, and also connecting with the squaring with the Pluto, I guess. So the Venus Chiron opposition, which is just because I was looking at my chart and I was like, okay, oh shit, I have 3 degrees of Venus in Scorpio. It's gonna be Venus return, and also it's like squaring my natal Saturn, you know, and also Pluto is right in my 3 degrees of Saturn. So I was like, okay, that's gonna be fun for me. Yeah, but that's another story. And so those conversations that has been brought from Eclipse, and I think it's kind of, like I said, communication will brought up some wound from the past. And also because Venus in Scorpio is in her fall, and like for me, this describing like kind of like you being kidnapped in the underworld. You have no power to act, and so and then therefore the wound maybe feel super overwhelmed. Like you feel the desperation or like the hopelessness like you experienced this before. So this definitely not going to be easy one. But what I want to see here is like, so it might be bring things unconscious in the underworld, right? But now we actually really need to feel it into our body, like because Chiron in Taurus literally pointing out, maybe manifesting a physical symptom, manifesting in okay, now I have to really take care of my body in order to process things I was not able to process. And so I will say this is like an ouchie like activation, like depends on where your chart, like where is located in your chart. And this placement, yeah, so it's like even in shamanic practice, we're talking about like when we feel powerless in a situation in life, it's always we unconsciously has been given our power away. And the remedy here is to journey to the underworld, which is Venus located in right now in the Scorpio in this new moon, and to face those fears and desperation to reclaim power back, and therefore you can rising from ashes. So it's really uncomfortable journey, and like I said, it will manifest in your physical level, but also the remedy here, the middle ground with this opposition is like, hey, can I face my fear? Can I face the things I haven't been able to address before, but now I am able to face it with courage and trying to take my power back, you know? So I think that's kind of like what I see from this. And also, yeah, I was talking about Venus return, but also I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah. Maybe interesting in the next podcast to look back and have a chat about that.
Yeah, the Venus return. I was like, I'm going to have my Venus return. My Venus is basically roasted this year.
He's out of time. Okay, I'm just aware of time.
Yeah.
I think we can quickly wrap up the Uranus stationing just very briefly.
Yeah.
Again, just bringing it back to your own chart, and also really quickly looking at Chiron moving into Aries. But I really just want to go over this for you to look at in your own chart. So Uranus stations at 5 degrees of Gemini. So just have a look at where the last few degrees of Gemini are, or the first 5 degrees of Gemini are in your chart.
Yeah.
And we're going to go backwards till, again, themes are going to come up. We're going to be retracing our steps back to June 2026. So, you know, just a few months ago.
Yeah.
And that's going to be individual for everyone, how that affects, you know, but it's going to be retracing those things. Again, I think very cerebral, there'll be breakthroughs, but also we're kind of reviewing. I think on a collective level, I think this will definitely have to do with the impact of AI. Yeah. Reviewing those things, you know. Yeah. That's all I really have to say about that. And then the Chiron moving back into Aries for the last time. I'm just trying to find the date for that, 17th and 18th of September. Again, it's wrapping up. So look at where the last 4 degrees of Aries are, because I think it goes back to 27 degrees of Aries. And it's wrapping up those themes that it's been doing since 2018. So again, I think on a world stage, it's around, we talked about this in previous podcasts around the wounded masculine, how we carry that energy within ourselves, you know, wrapping up the identity and self-worth and courage themes in our own lives, the wounds we have around those. And anyone that kind of has, I think it's people born around, I think it's 1975 to 1977, they're going to be having that last hit of their Chiron return, which is the biggest cycle, you know, so reclaiming your own authority. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to mention on those before we wrap up, if you have anything.
Yeah, and the Chiron return, I think, is actually quite a big theme. I think it's all like almost 50 years, isn't it?
Yeah,
for Chiron return. Yeah, around 50 years. Yeah. So I think like there's some of us like really feel that. I think for me, the Chiron return is actually like a moment when you transform your wound to your medicine. Yeah. And that's where you're going through different, like this 50 years of like working with this wound, and then now you're able to share your related experiences to people who are going through similar experiences. So I think that's kind of like sometimes, yes, Chiron is really, really ouchy in our chart, and then it can be like you have to live with for lifetime. But also that's also a wisdom and medicine in it. So I just want to mention it, like for whoever going through those Chiron return, you can really see it like in a different way, because that's your medicine as well. Yes, it's ouchy, it's hurt, it's painful, and it's living with it, but also it's medicine. Because you can feel it is so deeply, so therefore you can providing for others and saying, hey, like I can help you to navigating this as well.
Yeah. Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So I think closing. I think we've mentioned this throughout the whole podcast, but really nourishing your body, your routines, looking after yourself. Taking care of the details without needing everything to be perfect. And really use that lull. I think that that's
transition.
my biggest takeaway. Integrate.
Yeah, and also definitely I feel like this Virgo season can be really, sorry, my cat trying to attack me. This Virgo season is definitely, I don't know, like normally I would say Virgo season is like busy, organized, and going forward. Yes, this still having that energy in it, but also I feel like there's like a lot, like the eclipse, and also it's kind of like you said, the eclipse between the eclipse and the new moon, there's like a in between. So I feel like there's a lot bump, and definitely be aware of your communication and how you communicate things, because I think there's some definitely strong Mercury theme this month, and also all the transition is actually activating Mercury so heavily, and how you approach, and also now Mercury is in Libra, so that's like when you communicate, when you deliver a message, when you like for example sorting out a contract, trying to utilizing a more diplomatic approach and trying to find see both sides of the things and being more objective and to communicate things. And therefore, all the unsettling emotions or like conflict or whatever is happening in the eclipse can able to find a creative resolution in between. It doesn't necessarily need to go really badly. And also another thing, like I said, the body, and go back to your body, the healing, like the utilizing the transition period of time, just rest and just let things process, let your body know what needs to be done, and therefore the new beginning and will starting. And because after this new moon, you will see things starting to picking up, things starting to getting busy, and you need to organize, you need to more communication, more like putting things out there, and so I think things starting to move faster than you thought, you know. So I think that's my takeaway.
Great. Thank you all.
You also have something to mention, right?
Oh,
like,
yes, I do.
Yeah.
So I'm trialing a new monthly workshop. I don't know what to call it really. It is a workshop. We're going to get together. It's the first month's free. It's happening this Thursday on the eclipse, actually on the 28th at 7:30 New Zealand time. And it's just for, you don't need to know a whole lot about astrology. You can also be an astrology geek. It doesn't really matter. We're just going to look at each other's charts, and I'll be doing a little bit of teaching through learning, you know, for what's coming up for the month ahead. So if you kind of enjoyed what we did with each other's chart today and looking at, you know, where these eclipses are going to land for you, what the biggest cycles are, that's exactly what we'll have time to do in these kind of workshop sessions. So you can head to my website to sign up for that.
Yeah, nice. I think it's going to be really interactive, right? It's not just...
Yeah, very interactive. Yeah.
I think that's...
So basically, if you've been listening to this and going, oh, I wonder what, you know, how it's landing in my chart, that's what we'll be doing.
Yeah. Great. Okay. I think that's for today, and I hope you're navigating this eclipse season really well, and also leave a comment in below and share your experiences as well, because I think that's always good to know, like how we're experiencing that personally and collectively. There's a lot of things like collectively happening today in the global stage. We are kind of like, we don't have time to talk about that.
We don't have time to talk about
that's all right. And we okay, we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Bye.
Yeah. Stop.
Thanks so much for joining us on Let's Blame the Planets. We'll be back next month with another deep dive into the sky and how it's showing up in our lives. If you want to keep up with what else we're offering, from astrology insights to workshops and more, check out our social handles in the description below. And don't forget to follow so you don't miss the next episode.